Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are going to do some easy marker flowers. If we haven't met, I'm Viv, and this is Art with Viv. So right now, I am just taking my light pink marker. I have gotten these sort of drawn out. I did a long oval as my center, and then I'm just doing lots of marks, really messy marks, really close together to make the petals. And I'm changing the shape of the petals. The petal closest to you, I have almost put it on its side and made it like a long, almost teardrop shape. And that makes it look like it is facing you. It sort of foreshortens it. Now I'm taking my hot pink or a darker pink and going around that center. And then I want to take a little yellow, a paler yellow. I'm going to just go ahead and color in that center. Once I color in that center, I'm coming with a darker golden ochre color, putting some dots in there, and then like a maroon color to put even darker dots. So, and I concentrated those toward the bottom to make it look like there's a shadow toward the bottom and it's lighter at the top. I'm going to use my water brush pen, I guess that's what you call these, and I'm just going to blend that marker right on the paper. I am using marker paper. I'm not even using watercolor paper. I'm just using a sheet of marker paper out of one of my little marker pads, and I'm blending that color together, the darker pink with that lighter pink, and just going around those petals. And it's also sort of making those petals more solid, you see, instead of just looking like a bunch of marks all close together. So it sort of blends it together. Some of the darker marks just look like striations in the petals. And so it gives it a more of a realistic look, even though that's not what we're going for. We are just practicing right now. Just putting some flowers on paper, checking out our markers, seeing how our markers work, what colors go together. So I've gotten sort of a sage green here, and Cosmos flowers have really sort of fern-like, almost, not really fern-like, but really feathery is the word that I want to use, leaves to them. So I'm just doing really light feathery markings for the leaves and just sort of putting a few of those in there. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, we're just practicing with our markers and with our little water brush. We're not getting our panties in a wad about anything. We are just practicing. Now I made a little bud here, so I'm just coloring that in with my pink, and I'm just going to take a little darker pink there and add the dot in the center. And that is a cute little cosmos flower with a little cosmos bud. And I'm coming back in there with a medium pink, and I'm using the bullet tip end instead of the brush end. And I'm just drawing in a few little lines, some of those lines coming out from the center. Now we are going to do some gladiolas. I have a ton of gladiolas blooming right now in my garden. So I'm taking a deep sort of reddish orange, and I'm just making dots in the center of a bunch of sort of frilly circles that I made. Now I'm taking a medium orange, and I'm going over those dots and just sort of spreading it out toward the outer edges of where the petals would be. Now these are really stylized gladiolas. They are not supposed to look, exactly like a gladiola. So I just taking my brush pen and I'm going around those gladiolas, around that really deep dark center, and I'm pulling that color out to the edges of the circles that I made. Now these circles are not, I'm calling them circles, but they're really frilly around the edges to just indicate that there's petals there and things like that. It's not... These are so easy to do. They're really simple. I think I might try to make a whole page of different colors of gladiolas because I just love these so much. I think they came out really pretty. And they're stylized. Now we're not trying to do actual, gladiolas up close or anything like that. We are doing some very stylized type of flowers here. Now I've got a deeper green. It's more of a blue green, and I'm just drawing in some of those stems. The gladiolas go on a really long stem, sort of like a spike almost. So I'm just getting that in there in between some of the flowers that are peeking out. And it has those really strap-like leaves, those really long strap-like leaves, almost like little swords. I put those on there, and then I'm just going to take a darker sort of reddish orange and do the buds on the top that haven't opened yet. You know, they open from the bottom up. Gladiolas open bottom up, and then the last flowers to open are at the very tippy tops. So I'm trying to get that in there, going back and darkening up some of the dots in the centers of the flower, just to give it a little bit more dimension. And now I think I'm going to take a sort of a mid-tone reddish orange, and I'm just going to come in there and do some shadows. And really what I'm trying to do is, one, add shadows, and the other is I'm just trying to separate some of these flowers from each other, because these are individual flowers on a long stalk. So that shadow work in there helps with that. Now we are going to do sort of a butterfly bush. I have a ton of butterfly bushes blooming right now, and they come in different colors. They come in red purples, blue purples. They come in really deep, almost black purples. They're so dark purple. They also come in white and pink, sort of a pink purple, but it's a lighter pink color. But I have purple in mine, so I'm taking sort of a lighter purple, and I'm just doing dots and just sort of squiggles, letting a lot of that light from the paper, the white from the paper, shine through, because butterfly bushes are panicles. They're big at the bottom and they go off to a point, but it's made up of bunches of tiny little flowers. And so that's just what I'm trying to get the impression of, or just make it look sort of like these are tiny flowers all on this one branch, just one stalk. Now I'm coming back in with went with a dark tone first and got some of those darker purple in. Now I'm going with a mid-tone and going over some of that darker purple and blending it out into the lighter purple, and that just gives it more dimension, more solid, makes it look a little more solid. And now I'm taking sort of a sage color, a pale sage color for the leaves and the stems, and just coloring those on. I'm just making really long oval shaped leaves for the attaching to either side of the stem. And as it goes down, I am making more little offshoots, and then of course those long oval leaves on the offshoots. And then I'm just taking a darker green, adding a few shadows here and there, just to give it a little dimension and just wake it up a little bit so that it doesn't look so flat. We don't want our flowers to look completely flat. Now I'm taking a peaky purple. I'm going to do some cone flowers. I have red, well, they're not really red, they're really hot pink cone flowers. I love the purple cone flowers, but I don't have any in my yard. I got more of a hot pink. So we're going to do 2 cone flowers. We've got sort of a little ball at the top, and from that ball, there's a little cap, that little ball at the top, we're just doing some long pointy leaves. Not leaves, petals. And then around the center, I'm going with a little bit of a darker purpley pink, and just going right around the center of that ball. It almost looks like a little toboggan up there, a little cap on it. Or it reminds me of a ballerina, and the ballerina is that little cap up there, and this is her little tutu that sort of splays out from around her little waist, and that's just what it reminds me of whenever I do these kinds of cone flowers. I'm just blending those colors together just like we did on the cosmos with my brush pen. And I am remembering in between flowers to rinse my brush pen a little bit. I don't want to contaminate, bring color, one color to the other, from one flower to another. And I'm doing a light pale yellow, and I'm just doing lots of tiny dots. And that middle part is sort of like I said, a toboggan or a rounded cone in the middle. And the petals just sort of jut out from around it like a little tutu, a little ballet skirt or something. Now I'm just going in there with darker browns and a little bit of maroon around the edges just to darken that up. Now I'm coming with a deep purple just around the edge of that center, and I'm just sort of splaying those off, pulling those little lines out from the center down toward the ends of the flower petal. And then I'm going to, of course, blend it with my water brush. And again, I'm just going right around the edges and then pulling some of that darker purple down like little lines throughout the petals. That gives it just a little bit of texture and more realism, I think. even though, we're just doing flowers just to practice, and I like to use my markers. I don't use them as much as I would like to, so I'm trying to get my money's worth out of them, and along the way just, showing you a few little ways to make some flowers with your markers. Now I've got sort of an olivey green, and I'm just doing, again, just sort of oval petals with points on the ends, not petals, leaves with points on the ends. I'm leaving sort of the center open just to look like veining of the leaves. You can make it solid and then do a darker veining if you want. It's totally up to you. Now I am taking sort of a corally pink. I'm doing some geraniums. I have some orange, they're more orange geraniums on my front porch, and I love the way that they look. And geraniums, of course, they bloom in a cluster. It's a cluster of flowers at the end of a stalk, and then I got my little buds over there on the end of a stalk. Now I'm taking a darker pinky color, and I just did all the centers of my geranium flowers, and then I just did some little marks, just some little dots on my buds that haven't opened yet. And then I'm just going to blend that together on my geranium, that darker color in the center, and just sort of pull it out a little bit toward the ends of the petals. Not a lot, just a little bit. I love all flowers. Let's just face it, people. I just love flowers. So now I'm just going in with a little bit of a darker green, and I'm attaching all my flowers together to their little one stem. One stem comes down from it, and just doing some of their little round. They have round, ruffly leaves. I'm not really crazy about the way I did these leaves. They're looking a little janky, but you get the idea of how the leaves are supposed to look. I would not do my leaves like this, but it is what it is. But I did it with a nice deep dark green because my geraniums have some dark green leaves, and then I'm doing sort of a pattern on them with an even deeper green, and then I'm just going to add some of that deeper green here and there just to add some shadow work, just to liven it up. And then I'm going to just take my pen and dot those centers again, because I kind of lost it when I went and blended it with the water pen. And just on the very edges of the petals of the flowers, I'm going with my water pen just to lighten them up a little bit, so there's a good contrast between the edges of the petals and that darker center. Now I'm just wetting part of the leaf, and then I'm just going to dab it up with some paper towel so that it has that pronounced marking on it. A lot of geraniums have that sort of stripy look, and so that's what I was going for there. Doing the center of my sunflower with a nice golden yellow, and then the very center of that I did a nice sort of sienna brown, and then the petals that are closest to me I'm going with a pale yellow color, and they are just, well, you know what a sunflower petal looks like. It's sort of squared where it connects to the center, and then it comes off into a point, and so that's what I'm, like a picket fence almost. It looks like a little picket almost. So there I'm going with my yellow, my really pale yellow. Then I'm going to go with a darker color for the leaves. Not leaves. I keep wanting to say leaves, y'all. I'm so sorry. For the petals in the back, because they have layers of petals. There's some longer petals, and then there's another layer of petals that's lighter in the front. So we're doing the back petals, and we're doing that much darker with a darker yellow orange, and just sort of putting that in between each one of those front petals, those lighter yellow petals. I like the way that looks. Now I'm just taking a little bit of brown, and I'm just doing tiny dots around that center of my sunflower. They have all of that fuzziness in the center of them, and I'm putting an even darker color brown right in the center and right on the bottom part to give it a shadow, pulling it up around the edge, and yeah, it's looking pretty good. And I've decided that it needs something, so I'm just going to take this orange color and just outline each one of the petals. Now, you don't have to do this, but I think it gives it more definition. And of course, I'm just practicing. I'm just trying out some techniques. I encourage you to try out different ways to draw your flowers with your markers if you're so inclined. And I like that. I don't think it's perfect, but I like it better than than just having the petals there alone. It gives it some definition. You can definitely tell it's a sunflower now. And then, oops, I got a little bit of that darker center out there onto the flower. I'm just going to leave it. Just try to blend it out a little bit with my brush pen and blend some of those harsh lines that we've outlined it with. Just a little. And yeah, I think it looks a little bit better, but I still like the outline, so I don't want to lose those completely. And then I'm going to take a nice green. We got to do a stem and some leaves. And you know, the back of the sunflower has sort of all the sepals sort of stick out from it, so I got those in first, and then I'm just doing some leaf shapes here. They don't have to be perfect, and coloring those in pretty well with this sort of medium green I've got here. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you give these a try. They're so simple. If you're a member of my Patreon, you will get the outline coloring sheet, and hopefully I will see y'all soon.